Good morning, Early Edge family, says me and CID. So many people already in the chat. Welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. We already got bets in the chat from Rob Swider, Japan, Rick Funcannon. So many more bets to come from you and the stars of the show. But let's look to see how our bets did on Friday. We had to pull some bets over from earlier in the week, like my top Nordic play, Ludwig Aubert. That was minus 105. Of course, he was still sick from the week before, and nobody knew that, including myself. I lose 2 out of 3. Buckets loses 2 out of 3. The SportsLine picks, 2 for 2. Gotta love that. But honestly, 4 and 6, we do not love at all. We've had a really good month of January, but we got a rebound in February. It's only February 3rd, but we got to do better than 4 and 6. And we're going to do it with the stars of the show. Let's bring him in right now because we've got a lot to talk about. We got the Monday slate. I got an early golf pick. We got a Super Bowl pick that Larry's going to throw out, yet another one. Basketball picks, soccer picks from Buckets. But we got to pick up with what happened this weekend. Larry, I'm going to start with you. I mean, we had De'Aaron Fox get traded yesterday, something we talked about last week on this show. But the big news, I think, for everybody, unless you're a Spurs fan, is Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis swapping teams. Obviously, there were more players involved in that trade. Your instant reaction?
Well, utter shock. And how could you not get more for Luka Doncic, 25 years old, superstar who just took his team to the NBA Finals. Mikal Bridges is bringing back, 5 first-round picks, and all you get is Anthony Davis and 1 later first-round pick. So if they were so fed up with him and the reported conditioning issues and his defense or whatever it was, you still got to get a lot more. You got to shop him around. But it was just nuts that night because nobody thought it was real.
So, Mackenzie, before I get your reaction and Buckets, I'm not sure if you know who these players are, but if you have a reaction, I want you to hold your hand up and pipe in here. I do. Before, Mackenzie, I get to your reaction, Joseph Akers has a comment. So our recap screen was 4 and 6. But if you watch the show, at the end of the show, we had Mike McClure say, hey, you might want to take a look at Harvard. A friend of mine called me, like, all this stuff. If you were watching the show, you know what I'm talking about. I guarantee you, based on what Mike said, a lot of you took Harvard. I guarantee it because it looked like and sounded like really good information. Of course, Harvard covered the spread really easily. So, yeah, we were 4 and 6, but I got a lot of tweets that said, hey, it pays to watch live. Sometimes some of this stuff just comes out in the middle of the show. They're not official plays, and you all can cash it. So, yes, 4 and 6, but there were some other picks in there as well. Hopefully, y'all took advantage of. Mackenzie Brooks, Luka, AD, what's your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, stunned off the bat, totally agree with Larry in the fact that I can't believe you don't get more from him. Like, I see the logic of, I think having Luka on the Lakers is a 10-year down the road project, right? I think the version of him right now, the unhealthy, coming back from injury version, feels a little bit redundant with LeBron. But I guess they're looking into the future there. And what's ironic is the Mavericks, they're championship odds got longer, even though they're the ones who technically are winning right now, while the Lakers got shorter and they're supposed to be the ones winning in the long run. So it's funny how the public will instantly, just based off feeling, change those lines sometimes where the odds makers know they can get you that way. But I do think the logic was Dallas wants to win now. Apparently wasn't going to happen with Luka for whatever reason. And I think, bringing Luka to the Lakers is a good long-term decision.
Yeah, I do think there might be, in Buckets, I'm going to go to you next. I do think there might be like a small issue with Luka's injury plus conditioning. I mean, I think those things tend to come and go. So I'm sure Luka's going to be fine. And maybe it's a rebirth in Los Angeles. Maybe he wanted to go there. I think there's a lot of background information we just kind of don't know about why this trade went down. But certainly if you're a Lakers fan, you've got the present and you've probably secured the future as well. So that's pretty good. Buckets, any reaction to these trades this weekend?
I asked Twitter yesterday, what's like the soccer equivalent of this? I needed some kind of comparison to help understand it. And the first response I got was, imagine trading primetime Lionel Messi for you, Buckets, which seemed a little insulting to either me or maybe Anthony Davis. I'm not quite sure how that works, but it seems to me like Lakers got the better deal. That's what I'm getting out of this.
I saw someone on the internet be like, it's like taking a buffalo chicken wing dipped in ranch and trading it for a carrot. That's what it was like. I was like, that's a little harsh.
Larry, can I ask you real quick? I mean, Luka doesn't play much defense. This is already kind of a bad defensive team. Anthony Davis not on the team anymore. Do you think the Lakers are continuing to shop? Because it doesn't look like this is a finished product.
Yeah, defensively, they need a lot of work. They're playing well right now. I think, yeah, there's more moves to come. They still have some flexibility, some pieces they can move. We've still got 3 days. We have names like Kevin Durant is being bandied about right now from Zach Lowe, who just started podcasting again. So we have a lot more to go with 3 days left.
Yeah, I bet Kevin Durant wish he'd stayed in Golden State some time ago. Maybe that team would still be intact. Oh, we do have to get to some picks. I'll tell you what, though, in the chat, there might be some people for some reason that think the Mavs won the trade. If you think the Mavs won the trade, put Mavs in there. If you think the Lakers won the trade, put Lakers in there. Let's see. What's this comment from Mackenzie? I will not tolerate such slander in the chat.
Giving me a hard time about
blue
ranch.
cheese versus ranch.
Yeah.
Let's go around the horn before.
Arguably a universally liked condiment.
We're going to go around the horn before we get to soccer and your official picks, Buckets. Larry, ranch or blue cheese?
Neither.
Buckets, ranch or blue cheese?
I know. 1 second. I got to recover from that. Okay, no. I don't have all day to talk about this. I'm going to say ranch and move on because I'm going to get angry if I keep going.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Mackenzie?
I'm team ranch, clearly.
Yeah, I don't really love either, but I am going to choose one. I'm not going to abstain like Larry. I'm going to go with the ranch over blue cheese. The idea of mold in my whatever dip is not like a super fun thing for me. All right, let's get to some picks. We had to discuss some NBA. We didn't even get to De'Aaron Fox. We'll get to that later in the week. Don't forget what Larry said. The trade deadline has not come and gone. We've got 3 days left, so there's going to be a lot to talk about. Mikey B is going to be on the show, among others, to discuss some of this NBA action and implications and futures. Buckets, the future is now. Let's get to some soccer picks. You got 2 plays.
See, I'm doing something new today that I'm calling the perfect game. It is going to either make me look like a genius or whatever the opposite of a genius is. I'm giving out 2 wagers and multiple leans for the exact same matchup, and I'm going to try to predict how this game plays out. We are going to Italy's Serie A in a matchup between Cagliari taking on Lazio, and I will give out my 2 bets first. Both teams to score at -130. And Lazio over 1.5 team total at -105. So 2 bets for the same game. But I'm telling everyone right now, I think Lazio absolutely massacred this Cagliari side. I'm looking at a correct score of 4-1. If you want to take that on MGM, that is +2,500. And I also like Tati Castellanos, anytime goal scorer, at +165. Lazio are one of the best teams on the road in Serie A right now. They're the only team in Serie A who is yet to draw on the road. This is a team that does not park the bus, that does not play defensively for some reason, specifically when they are traveling. Cagliari is in a relegation battle right now, which means they cannot afford to play for a draw. They have to be desperate and they have to go for points, which usually means goals in this situation. Lazio coming off of back-to-back losses. This is a chance to bounce back. I'm expecting a very big and very aggressive attack out of Lazio. So yeah, I think we see a ton of goals in this matchup. So I like my 2 picks here, but a couple leans along the way for everyone.
All right, a couple picks, a couple of leans, and maybe Buckets looking like a genius at the end of it. Mackenzie, before we get to your 2 picks in the NBA, speaking of the NBA, Eric David says, this is such a interesting comment that I hadn't thought of, but I'm sure everybody else has. Eric David says, with Luka and LeBron, Lakers will definitely lead the league in complaining to refs on every play. This has a chance to be like the most hated team in the NBA with both of those guys. Like, I don't hate either of them. I'm just saying, like, when it comes to complaining, Luka in particular, every single play. Larry, what do you think? Mackenzie, I'm going to go around the horn to you two too before we get to our picks. This is going to be a problem for LA, right?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many great memes and video going on last spring. He became very disliked because of the constant moaning. And if they go deep in the playoffs, we're going to see that again.
Mackenzie, are we going to end up hating this team in a month?
Yeah, I mean, we're starting out. It's Hollywood, like it's already like target on their back, and they're really just going to fuel the fire that's just already sitting there for them.
Buckets.
I just want to say, as someone who does watch a lot of soccer, I'm pretty sure these players in soccer practice specifically how to complain to refs and fake injuries. So I'm kind of used to it, but I'm excited to see if Luka and LeBron can hold up to my standard.
Yeah, maybe they can, by the way. And maybe you just adopted an NBA team that you can root for now. The Los Angeles Lakers, they belong to you, Buckets. All right, let's get to some NBA picks, Kens. We've got 2. What are they?
Yeah, we're going to start with Atlanta headed to Detroit here. Kind of an ugly play, but I just like the under in the game overall because I don't know who's going to be on the court that can score. You have Jalen Johnson, who's out again for the foreseeable future, I believe, this season, and they were shooting 52% on the road with him playing. And I don't imagine that gets better with him out. On top of that, you have a ton of other guys out. Clint Capella's out. That's easily at least 10 points of, just paint scoring that you're losing with him. You have Bogdanovic is out for personal reasons. You have Trae Young, who's probable, but obviously not going to be 100% if he plays with that Achilles injury is on the report. So again, you could go with Atlanta team total under. We have them projected for 106. Their team totals implied is around 115.5. So you could take them, but I don't think I love Detroit's offense all too much either, because they just have not been having a high 3-point percentage at home. I think eventually that regresses. But again, I mean, you think about the last 2 games they played at home, they won and covered, and they're still shooting basically 30% from deep. So nobody's really scoring. Atlanta, A, is just injured, but B, Detroit just isn't necessarily going to win this game with firepower offense at home from what we've seen so far. So I like the under in general. I like Detroit money line. I also like Jalen Duren double-double. Maybe I'll just have a buckets game here and give out a few plays for one, but Jalen Duren double-double, a bit pricey. Good thing to put in a parlay as well, just because of that price. But again, I think it'll go to around minus 200 eventually. Then we're going to move away from that game, go to the Kings at Minnesota. Now we're going to go to Malik Monk, who now is going to be your starting point guard here. And when he's playing 33 plus minutes, when you look at the past 2 seasons, he's 19-10 to this over. You see them adjust his assist line. Like, they're adjusting the fact that he will be playing more, but they didn't adjust his rebound line. And I understand that's not his number one priority, but just being on the court and the sheer volume of minutes typically is going to be helpful, especially assuming Levine won't be available for today's game. So again, we have him projected for 35 minutes. So that should be at least 4 rebounds for Monk.
All right. Love the plays there. Let's get to a sports line play. And then I do have some plays to call out from Steve Folkerts and Big Cheesy. Those are the plays I'm looking at right now in the chat. We got South Carolina State and Howard over 153.5. This is courtesy of Bruce Marshall over at Sportsline. And it's minus 110. South Carolina State Howard over 153.5. I want to call out Big Cheesy. Minnesota minus 4.5. I mean, this is playing Sacramento, of course, without De'Aaron Fox for the Sacramento Kings. And Steve Folkerts, Buckets, I don't know if you have a comment here. He says West Ham plus 1.5 at even money. Thoughts?
Talking about the Premier League game against Chelsea, I looked at that game for about an hour and decided I could not come up with a single wager. That is Chelsea. That is 2 of the most coin flippy teams in the world right now. That game is ending with either 9 goals or 0, and I don't know which way it's going, so I'm staying off it.
Okay, Snug the Cat says, Buckets, your thoughts on Chelsea versus West Ham? Both teams to score, no draw, plus 109.
That game's either ending with 9 goals or 0 goals. I don't know which one it is. I'm staying off it, Snug.
All right, fair enough. If you want to make any of those bets, I got to tell you about this new BetMGM promotion, which I think we introduced maybe early last week. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, sign up now and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM plus. This is the big part. Plus a 1-year free subscription to Sportsline with bonus code SportsLine1500. Get exclusive members only picks for all major sports from proven models and 40 plus Vegas experts, plus predictive tools for pick 'em brackets, player stats, and more. Get this offer in 4 easy steps. Download the BetMGM Sports app and register an account using bonus code SportsLine1500. Make your first deposit of at least $10. Place your first wager and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. If the bet loses, claim your free 1-year subscription to Sportsline in your BetMGM inbox. Oh, that is a great inbox message right there. All right, we got to get to some more picks. I got a golf pick to give out on a Monday. Larry, you've got a couple of picks in college basketball and for the Super Bowl. We're going to handle all of that right after this message from our partners.
Gives it to Jenkins for the championship. A 16 beats a 1 from sweet to elite to the Final Four.
All right, we've got people asking you, Mackenzie, what's your favorite pick? And I'm looking at the chat, and it says, I really like the Durant double-double and under. Is that accurate?
Yeah, especially for that game. I love Monk too. I think these are all just guys you need to get on right now before the prices start to get steeper, especially Jalen Duren. He will eventually be to that like minus 200 caliber. It was the same situation around this time last year too.
All right. Well, the same situation around this time last year segues really nicely into my pick because I've got a top Canadian pick, Nick Taylor at plus 280. I want to be very clear here. 2 things. One, it's plus 280. And for me, this is a half a unit play. I mean, you're looking at like 3-1 here. So half unit, even 0.3 units, I think you could flirt with that here. It's not going to be a full unit for me just because of the price. But what I'm referencing in terms of last year with Nick Taylor, well, he's been very good here. The last 2 years, he's won and he's come in second place. And when we're looking at the top Canadians, there's 5 others to contend with. Corey Connors is the primary one, although Adam Haddenwood and Mackenzie Hughes will have something to say about that. But when you look at Nick Taylor's recent form coming into this tournament, and you look at his course history at the WM Phoenix Open, he just lights it up here, not just with the putter, where he kind of tends to dominate, but that can be kind of a finicky metric. The ball striking has been great for Nick Taylor as well. And again, take that plus his recent form. He outclasses Corey Connors, in my opinion, who is the favorite in this market. Adam Hadwin has been good here, but his recent form isn't very good. And Mackenzie Hughes isn't really that good anyway, but also hasn't been good here historically. So the other 2 guys, Ben Silverman and another guy I'm forgetting. But the point is, it's really probably a 3 to 4 man race. And I think Nick Taylor probably deserves odds that are basically commensurate with Corey Connors. Like, I think they should both be in the same realm, and Corey Connors is kind of a heavy favorite in this one. So give me Nick Taylor, top Canadian, plus 280. We'll have more picks as the week progresses and some outrights as well. I'm probably going to be flirting with the outright market in the without Scotty Scheffler market, because I do think Scotty Scheffler is probably going to win this tournament. I really don't want to contend with him. I have some long shots that I like in the without Scotty market, but that market hasn't presented itself yet. So as soon as it does, I'll get in the SportsLine Discord. I'll discuss that with you all. I may tweet it out. And of course, I'll bring some of those picks to this show as well. All right, Larry, we go to college basketball. We go to the NFL. You've got 2 picks to close us out.
Yeah, big game tonight on ESPN2. UAB hosting North Texas in a rematch of a great game a few weeks ago. North Texas wins it on a 3-pointer at the buzzer at home. They were down 18. They come back. They get the win. These teams are both 7-2 in the American, right behind Memphis. To me, they're pretty even teams, and I love this being a whiteout in Birmingham for UAB. I think they're going to get revenge. That was a 10 for 18 shooting from North Texas from beyond the arc. This is a team that's gone under 30% from deep in the last 3 games. For the season, they're around 36%, which is not bad at all, but they were 10 for 18 in that game. That was a miraculous comeback. I think UAB behind Lendenborg, this guy is a double-double machine. He has 14 double-doubles. He's averaging a double-double. They get it done tonight at home, play them on the money line at a pretty reasonable price. And we've seen this flip overnight. North Texas opened as a small favorite, and now they are a small dog. I like that move. I agree with that move. And then in the Super Bowl, less than a week away, we have seen the Chiefs develop young players pretty much like no other organization. We saw what happened with Rashee Rice throughout the season, Xavier Worthy. Well, a guy on the defensive side that they have developed is Jaden Hicks, a free safety, 4th-round pick out of Washington State, was not playing much for most of the season. Late in the year, he's earned a lot of snaps. He has 3 picks. He's playing more than Brian Cook, the other free safety. So it's basically Justin Reed, Jaden Hicks, and Brian Cook on the field a lot. He had a 68% snap rate last game. He's gone over this number, 3.5 tackles in just 4 straight games. He's missed 1 tackle all season. He graded out, according to PFF, as the best tackling performance of the season for him last week against Buffalo. And what the thing I really like about this prop is we know how much the Eagles run the ball. We know how many plays they run. They can have those long sustained drives. They average more plays than the Chiefs. So Jaden Hicks should be on the field. I love him to get to 4 tackles or assists.
It's interesting what you say about the long sustained drives, because that's part of the reason I like the first half under in particular, when we're probably looking at mostly a neutral game script for both teams. Eagles really running clock with Saquon Barkley, but also the Kansas City Chiefs running clock with their short area passing game, which is probably going to be pretty efficient in spite of this very solid Eagles defense. KC3 says, when Larry has a tackle prop, you hammer it. We've got some other picks. I'm going to go around the horn. Mackenzie, I'm going to start with you if there's anything in the chat you need to address, and then you, Buckets. But Big Cheesy says Keon Ellis over 13.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Japan asks, is EC going to host the early wedge? We've got some announcements coming with respect to the early wedge, hopefully within the next week or 2. But by the end of the month, you'll start to see some early wedge programming. We're really excited to roll out kind of this new edition of the early wedge, which I think everybody's going to be excited about. And EC is going to be a big part of that as well. All right, Mackenzie, anything going on from the chat that you need to address?
I don't think so. I think I answered in the chat for the most part here, but a lot of people like Cade go over 27.5 points. We have him for 29, so not disagreeing there. I still like the under overall in that game, but he might be one of few productive offensive players tonight.
Steve Lochner says, hammer Jonas Valanciunas, double people now before the market moves too much. Oh, very interesting play there. Kind of like it. Buckets, anything to address from the chat?
Nothing in the chat, but I do have 2 questions as I try to learn more about sports outside of my own. Larry, just for you, what does an assist mean in terms of football?
Good question.
Oh, it's a good question. Well, when you watched American football, you see guys get tackled, right? So usually, sometimes it's one guy, sometimes there's a gang tackle, and there might be 3 or 4 guys. They will often give the second guy in an assist, and it does depend a lot of times on the scorekeeper. Some scorekeepers are more generous. I don't have any information, though, on the Super Bowl scorekeeper or whether it's going to be the Saints scorekeeper or not.
All right.
Interesting.
Good to know. Second question to either Ken's or Larry. With the move for Doncic going to LA, how quickly does that happen? Because I know in soccer, you got to go through medical, press, approval. It can take a couple weeks to happen. Will he be ready for next game, or is there a bit of a waiting period?
Well, he's out right now anyway, so it's not it's not relevant. But yeah,
he has a calf strain.
Yeah.
Okay.
He will be able to play, I believe, by I think it's February 25th or 7th that these two teams will play each other. So that'll be grab your popcorn buckets.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Mackenzie, do you know if that's in Dallas?
I don't. I can look it up. I mean,
look it up. Look it up because that will be must-see TV. So buckets. Usually it's just a couple of days that the player can. There's no limitation in terms of you have to sit out a certain period of time. It's just to me, my impression. I think you just basically have to travel there and kind of get your legs under you, and you can play for that team once you've been traded for them. So it's usually a quick turnaround.
I went to in college, one of like the date night social things was we went to a Hawks game, and it was right after the trade deadline. I think it was the Pacers that literally they were in the middle of like a 3-way trade. So these 5 guys for the Pacers showed up in the locker room that night, have never played with each other, like all shook hands, like the starting 5 and went out and played a basketball game. It was like the wildest thing. And then they were all gone the next day. Other thing to say is that game will be in LA, February 25th, 10 p.m.
Interesting. I wish that were in Dallas, but LA, I'll go ahead and take that. Hopefully, Luka is healthy by that point. All right, listen, everybody, there's so many more picks in the chat that I was unable to get to. Jeff Stenberg says Middleborough, team total over 1.5 at plus 130. Colin Sexton from Bill, points, rebounds, and assists. It is printing money, says, then there's the Jeff Stenberg comment. All right, let's get to the recap screen, though. Let's see how Larry and Buckets and Mackenzie think this slate is going to go. I've got top Canadian Nick Taylor. This one doesn't start till Thursday morning, so no worries in getting this one in. The line's not going to change much at all. That's with these nationality picks, markets don't move too much, but I do like this. And don't forget, I'm only putting a half a unit on this. I'm not telling you how to bet, but 0.3 units, 0.5 units on a plus 280 is plenty. So just something to keep in mind. Super Bowl prop, we got Jaden Hicks over 3.5 tackles and assists from Larry at minus 154. But tonight he's got UAB money line minus 118. Cagliari versus Lazio, both teams have scored minus 130, and Cagliari versus Lazio over 1.5 team total at minus 105. Those two, of course, are from Buckets. Atlanta, Detroit under 235 from Mackenzie Brooks, and Malik Monk over 3.5 rebounds. Those are minus 108 and minus 110. And the SportsLine pick, what's the SE stand for? South Carolina State versus Howard over 153.5 at minus 110. That, again, is the SportsLine pick. Don't forget about that SportsLine promo. And don't forget to join us every single Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Plus all the special shows. We're going to have special Super Bowl shows, prop shows, you name it. Make sure you have your notifications turned on. And by the way, some of you probably watch this show every day and don't realize you might not be subscribed to the SportsLine YouTube page. So make sure you're actually subscribed. That'll get you involved in the chat and all of those things, and you'll be able to turn notifications on and know when we are going live. What a show. What a great Monday. What a great way to start the week. Thank you, everybody, for being in here and participating as much as you do. On behalf of Mackenzie Brooks, Larry Hartstein, Buckets, and of course, Ben on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. I'm the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge, and we rest our case.